The haunting of Ashwood House. They say Friday the 13th is just a day like any other, a superstition born of fear and coincidence. But those who live in the small town of Ashwood know better. They speak in hushed tones about the night when the town's darkest secret is unleashed. At the edge of town, hidden by thick woods and creeping vines, stands Ashwood House. For years, no one dared venture near it. The house had been abandoned since 1913, after the notorious Blackwell family mysteriously disappeared on a Friday the 13th. Legends whispered of curses, spirits, and restless souls that still roamed its halls, but no one could confirm it, no one was brave enough to try. Until now, Megan, a curious young journalist from a nearby city, had always scoffed at such stories. She prided herself on being a skeptic, someone who sought the truth behind myths. When she heard about Ashwood House, she decided it would make the perfect article. After all, what better time to explore it than on Friday the 13th? She arrived at dusk, her flashlight cutting through the encroaching darkness. The old house loomed in front of her, its once grand structure now a shadow of decay. The windows, covered in grime, seemed like hollow eyes watching her every move. The air was still, unnaturally quiet, as if the forest around her was holding its breath. Megan hesitated for a moment but shook off her unease. Just an old house, she muttered to herself. Nothing more. She pushed open the creaking front door, and the smell of damp wood and mildew hit her like a wave. Her flashlight revealed peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and dusty floors. But what caught her eye was a portrait hanging on the far wall. It depicted a man, a woman, and two children, the Blackwell family. Their painted eyes seemed to follow her as she moved deeper into the house. As Megan explored the ground floor, a sudden chill swept through the air, causing her breath to mist in front of her. She paused, her heart racing. It was too cold for this time of year. Then she heard it, a faint whisper. Megan. She spun around, shining her flashlight in every direction. There was no one there. Megan, the voice came again, louder this time, and it seemed to echo through the empty house. Megan's pulse quickened. How did they know her name? Panic set in, but she refused to leave just yet. She had come too far to turn back now. She ascended the creaking staircase to the second floor, where the bedrooms were. The hallway was lined with old family photos, more of the Blackwells, but now, something was wrong. The faces in the photos were distorted, their expressions twisted into grotesque grimaces. A child's face appeared to be screaming in one of the frames. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she reached the master bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and the faint glow of moonlight spilled out from within. She pushed it open with trembling hands. Inside, the room was eerily preserved, as if no time had passed since the Blackwells had vanished. A large canopy bed dominated the space, its once silken sheets now tattered and moth-eaten. But what drew her attention was the mirror on the far wall. It was cracked, but through the fractured glass, she could make out her reflection, or so she thought. As she stepped closer, her reflection didn't move in sync with her. It stood still, staring at her with wide, unblinking eyes. Megan froze in terror as her reflection slowly raised a hand and pointed behind her. She whipped around, but the room was empty. Megan, the voice whispered again, this time right next to her ear. She screamed and stumbled back, her flashlight flickering wildly. In the dim light, she saw movement in the shadows, figures, barely discernible, shuffling toward her. The Blackwell family. Their skin was pale, their eyes sunken and hollow. They reached for her with outstretched hands. Megan bolted for the door, her heart pounding in her chest. She raced down the stairs, but as she reached the front door, it slammed shut on its own, trapping her inside. She pulled at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Behind her, she could hear the soft shuffle of feet, getting closer and closer. Desperation took hold as Megan turned and ran toward the back of the house. She burst through the kitchen door and into the backyard, her feet sinking into the overgrown grass. The night was silent again, but she didn't stop running. She sprinted toward the woods, not daring to look back. When she finally reached her car, she fumbled with the keys, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She could feel them watching her from the edge of the woods, their cold, dead eyes fixed on her every move. As she sped away from Ashwood House, Megan glanced in the rearview mirror. Standing at the edge of the driveway was the Blackwell family, their faces blank and expressionless, their hollow eyes following her car as it disappeared down the road. She didn't stop driving until she reached the safety of her apartment. That night, she vowed never to return to Ashwood House. But the terror of that night never left her. The whispers, the cold, the eyes, they haunted her every waking moment. And on the next Friday the 13th, Megan's body was found in her apartment. The official report said she had died of a heart attack. But those who knew the truth whispered another story. In her apartment, hanging on the wall, was an old, faded portrait. It depicted a man, a woman, 2 children, and Megan. The Blackwell family had claimed another soul. End of story. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.